Put on a suit. Drink water. Don't drink and drive.
Game over!
Take it light. Stay.
Now you're more fluent.
Makina, he's got three!
Up, Bears. So this is really good right here. Absolutely. Let's do it.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of We Got Next. I'm Ricky Hampton with my great friend Paul Mokeski, former Milwaukee Bucks center. It's a Monday. We're here at a special time here on Sports Fluent. Can't wait to hear from you guys out there with your questions and comments. More people are already lining up. So let's get this party started, brother. How you doing,
Let's go, man? I'm good. It's starting to cool off here in Vegas, down into the 90s. This weekend it's going to be in the 80s, and now we will be laughing at the rest of the world that laughed at us when it was 115 degrees, and in December when I'm at my hot tub and it's 75 degrees. Hello.
What is it? Big Mo's Paradise? What is it? Your pool?
The Mokeski Beach Club.
The Mokeski Beach Club. I've had the pleasure of visiting.
Yeah, you've been there.
Beach Club. And it's luxurious, everybody. You got to get an invite from Big Mo.
I'll be asking for
Mo.
I'll give them out as I want to. Don't beg for invites, man.
Well, I'm coming out there. Me and Kathy are definitely going to get back out there to visit. So I definitely want to invite.
Well, you have a VIP card, so you're already in. I gave that to you last time. You better look for it. You better find it, or you won't be let in.
Well, actually, I sold it, man.
How much did you get for it?
You know what that's going for in the open market?
How much?
10 grand. 10 grand, baby.
That's good. Give me half. We're good to go. I got a bunch of them right here.
$10. Hey, Mo, I look at all the plays on your board back there. Are those NBA sets, or is that just?
Yeah, they're just general sets. Like everybody runs the Horn series, the Pistol series, and high pick and roll. So it's just regular sets. Everybody runs them.
Regardless of the level?
Sure.
High school, college?
Absolutely. If they were smart, they would.
So a high school team could run NBA sets?
Absolutely. No question. If you train them correctly and teach it correctly, no question. I mean, talking about, a horn set, a high pick and roll with the floor spread, pistol that's a dribble handoff to a pick and roll. Absolutely. Heck, your 8th grade team could run them if you wanted, if you would train them a little bit. It's not that hard. You just got to work with it. But, a lot of coaches out there don't want to put the time in. So, these, I call them more actions than sets, so it's actions you get into as you play. And it comes second nature if you do it enough. And there's drills you could do to train the skills you need to run these sets. And if you're a basketball coach, you should be able to do that and incorporate it in your practice so they can execute it under fire in a game. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the NBA doesn't have any magic sets. They run basically the same stuff. There's probably 30 to 40 different variations of stuff. They all run a lot of the same stuff. And internationally, they do it, and for sure. I wish AAU teams would do stuff like this, but they just run, push the ball, transition, draw and kick, which is great, but they don't have any semblance of an offensive sets or actions. And when they have to go up to college, they're going to have to run stuff like this. You can't just full court press the whole game, fall back into a zone that all the AAU teams do. Full court press, fall back to a zone, and then push the ball and try to attack the rim. That's all they do. Well, that doesn't. Eventually, that's going to catch up to you. And when you go to college, all those high school coaches and all those AAU coaches out there, you need to stop playing zone defense because ain't nobody runs zone defense after high school. College, there's only one team, pretty much Syracuse, that runs it. So if you're running a zone defense, high school coaches, you're preparing your kid to only play for Syracuse, nobody else, because they don't know how to get through pick and roll. They don't know how to switch and front somebody. They don't know how to do the basic stuff. Open up, man and ball, because you just stick them in a easy, lazy zone. And that's your fault, high school coaches, for doing that. And AAU coaches, because you have players that are more athletic and you go to a tournament and all you want to do is win games. We just got to win games. You don't figure out how to get your players better and better prepared for the next level, which is where they all want to go. It's crazy. I don't know if you know that, but it drives me a little crazy.
No, yeah, I love it when you get. I love it when you get fired up, man. Because you love the game of basketball, and really, this speaks to a larger point when you're concerned about the future of the American game when we play internationally.
All you people out there,
and it all stems back to the way we're learning the game, right?
Go to YouTube. Look up Mark Cuban. He just had a conversation on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Look up Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks. Now he's half owner, that won championships, and he explains exactly what's happening because AAU. All the players at the lower levels here in the United States, they play AAU, they play a lot of games, they don't practice very much. And then even when they get up to college level, they play a lot of games, they don't practice that much, and they're not ready. Overseas, there is no AAU overseas. There's no AAU. You have junior programs of pro teams, and you learn how to run the pro sets they run. You learn how to play man-to-man defense for the most part, and you learn skills. That's what you do. And you practice twice a day, and you play 2 or 3 times a week. In the NBA, you don't practice. Once the season starts, you don't practice because you're traveling or playing 4 or 5 games a day, and you got to rest your players. That's understandable. But they're not getting any better. So, look, people out there, look up on YouTube. Mark Cuban had this conversation. I sent it out to a lot of people about 3 days ago. And he explains exactly what's happening and exactly why half the players in the NBA now are not American players. They're not American players. They're Euro players. Yeah. They're Asian players. They're all these players that play somewhere else besides the United States where there is no AAU. So, hello, think about it. I mean, that's what's happening. Well, we got talent. Yeah, but you're not learning how to play the right way. So, that's there's my.
But Paul, this is something we've been doing this show 3 years. I mean, you've been talking about this for a while. Yeah, I mean, and we already got some questions coming in. What age I see you? We're gonna get to you in a minute. I just want to finish up with this. This is, but what I'm saying, this is not a new concern to you.
No, it's been going on for years. I mean, when I played 80 million years ago, there's only a handful of non-American players in the NBA. But now with the internet, with the broadening of even the NBA, I've done clinics in South Korea. I've done clinics in Croatia. I've done clinics all over the world, and that's expanded. And, it's just gotten worse and worse, but it's the basics of what's going on is our grassroots basketball program in the United States is garbage. It's garbage. You have coaches that are coaching these AAU teams, don't know what they're doing. They stand up and yell all the time. They're not helping the kids get any better. And you're playing 60 games in the summer. You need to have practice and get better. That's how you get to the next level. And, it's really, I'm telling you, I told you now, write it down. Everybody take this 2028 in Los Angeles at the Olympics. The USA basketball team will struggle to get a medal. Write it down, stack it up. I'll have receipts in about 4 years.
With age 84, the foreign players have said many times that the NBA is easier than the league they played in overseas. Now, you wouldn't go that far, Mo.
Well, it's different. The game overseas is way more physical. You watch the Olympics, right? Guards can hand check, guards can bang you. Bigs can set old school picks on guards now, like I used to set. Move your hip out, pick someone off. That's what European basketball is. So in that way, absolutely. And when you play over in Europe in these high level leagues, there's 18,000 screaming fans there going crazy, and there's a lot of pressure, and the physicality is intense, and they let it happen for the most part. Just watch the Olympics, how physical the guard play is, especially, and how bigs can move on their pick and roll. So if I'm a guard, if I'm Luka, right? And now I've been fighting through since I was 15 years old, fighting through these 7-foot, 280 dudes, moving their hip on me, smacking me in the shoulder, elbowing me. My guy that's guarding me has a hand check on me. He's pushing me. And now I go to the NBA where nobody can touch me anymore. You can't touch me. No, you can't hand check. You can't bump me. You can't move a little bit on your pick. Of course it's easier for them.
Okay. Yeah, I get the physical part being easier, but the skill level of these guys over here, I mean, they're still better players, more better players in the NBA.
Yeah, but
more athletic players.
They're not this much better. They're this much better.
Okay.
It's not the gap it used to be. I mean, if you watch Eurobasket, the players are there's athleticism over there now. The NBA has the best talent in the world, no question. There's 450 players. They're the most talent, but the talent level, it's not like going from the NBA to high school when you go play overseas. It's like NBA going to way better top 10 college competition. That's what it's like.
Gotcha. He adds, foreign players didn't come over right away when they were drafted. They came a few years after they were drafted back in the day.
Well, they still do that.
They would stay there. Yeah.
You look at the second round of the NBA draft, if there's non-American players drafted in the second round, those players usually come to training camp and then go back overseas to play for their international teams. And here's the other thing. There's always a buyout. So agents and teams overseas sign 15-year-old players to 10-year contracts. So I can't remember in that big trade with Minnesota and the Knicks, there's a player that's playing overseas. He's playing overseas right now. So he had, I think it was a $2 million buyout that the NBA team had to pay that team overseas for him to be able to go be in the draft. Here's $2 million. Okay, we trade him in the trade. We got him in the trade, $2 million. There you go. And now he went back and played for that other team again. Because that's a lot of the younger players used to stay over there. But now look at Wembanyama, guys like that are good enough now because Luka was MVP of the Final Four in the Euro Cup, which is huge competition, just a little step below the NBA when he was 16 years old. And then he stayed for a couple more years and then came over here to play. But yeah, it's it's a totally different animal now.
That is nuts. He was MVP at 16. That's a junior in high school.
And that would be like playing. That would be getting MVP of a 4-team tournament with maybe the 4 of the worst teams in the NBA. Portland, teams like that. That's that equivalent that he got that MVP at. That's the level of talent there.
Yeah, but the worst teams in the NBA. I mean, I watched the worst team in the NBA, the Pistons, last year. They had a guy, I can't even remember his name, but they were down their regular starters, Ivy and another guy. He came off the bench and had 50 points.
Yeah, I mean,
he can't do that. He probably can't get 15 every night. But my point is, he had enough ability and talent when it was all going his way to score 50 freaking points.
If you're one of the top 450 players in the world, that means you're pretty damn good, right? You're pretty damn. If one of the so take the 450 best attorneys in the world, best surgeons in the world, best CEO. I mean, they're good. Even 449 is good, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, I I think Wood Age mentioned the the Knicks and Timberwolves. Who was that? Oh, no. Before we get to that, Joel Embiid says he hopes he only has to play in back-to-back games. He won't have to play in back-to-back games this year.
He said he will probably not play in any back-to-back games. That's what he said. So
ever again, if he had it his
again.
way.
Well, guess what? He does have it his way. Yeah, he does. He can do whatever the hell he wants. I mean, if the coaching staff or the owners of the team say, well, we need you to play every game, he could say, you know what? The day of a game, my back is sore. I'm not playing tonight, and they can't do anything about it. So it's better for them just to say, okay, we're going to do what's best for you. What do you want to do? And that's what's going to happen. I didn't look at the schedule, but I would guess there's probably 10 to 15 back-to-back games on their schedule this year. So, my thought process is, okay, I understand we're trying to get you ready for the playoffs so you're healthy, because we know health matters in the playoffs. Just ask the Bucks with Giannis. But at the same time, it's also important to be one of the top 4 teams and have home court in the first round, right? That's also important. And guess what can separate from 4th to 6th to 7th? 5 games, 6 games, easy. And you're not going to play in 15 of them? That's going to be, I think Philly is deep enough. I just looked at the numbers today. Our guy, Andre Drummond, right? Remember Andre Drummond?
Right.
He's leading. Yeah. He's leading the league in rebounds in preseason, 15 a game.
Yeah.
So
but that's what he does.
Yeah, I think they have enough depth this year to
and Paul George has played well during the preseason, Mo.
He's the second leading scorer. I mean, in 23 games.
They could be a challenger to Boston.
If they're healthy, absolutely. If they're healthy, they're as good as Boston if they're healthy. Yes. Yeah.
But Paul, I mean, as a former player, are you okay with a guy just, okay, I'm not doing back-to-backs? Or do you think as a former player, you know how grueling those back-to-backs are? Is that something the NBA should look at?
Well, they are looking at it. I mean, they've looked at it for years. They looked at length of season, cut it down to 65 games. They're not going to do that. The money and the TV money doesn't say that. They've looked at load management. Is that legal or not? San Antonio got fined years ago. They're looking at all that stuff. But if I'm a player on Joel Embiid's team and I'm his backup, I'm kind of happy because I'm going to play a lot more in those games, right? Which, guess what? I can increase my average, which, guess what? Increases my salary, which, guess what? Is good for me and my family. So thank you very much. If I'm Paul George or Maxey or someone like that, am I a little upset, that I'm out here busting my butt and you get to sit and eat popcorn over there, and, in your shorts and hat and sunglasses if you want to, maybe a little bit, but at the same time, if that's going to help me get a ring in the end of this thing, I'm okay with that. When I was in Milwaukee, when I first got there, Bob Lanier was the starting center. Bob Lanier was an all-star, played for the Pistons. The Bucks got him. He was still efficient during the game, but his knees were mush. His knees were horrible, and he never practiced. He never practiced in training camp. He never practiced during the season. he would maybe go through some stuff to keep a little bit in shape, but he never practiced. So we're busting our ass in practice, and he's over there sitting on the stands drinking coffee and just hanging out. But guess what? That's okay. If you can play in games, Bob, and help us beat the Celtics, go smoke eight cigarettes and drink coffee. I don't care. So I think in the long run, the player.
Sorry
okay?
about that, Paul. Hey, yeah. But Mo, what you played in the time when you played back-to-backs when you guys would fly commercial from city to city. I mean, that had now I definitely get that.
We played back-to-back. We played 3 games in a row. We played back-to-back. We played 3 games in a row. We played 5 games in 7 nights. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it was. And there was no load management.
Well, what age is right? If the NBA played no 82 games, the season would end in September.
I don't think so. But I mean, they've kicked around like 70 games or whatever. But does it help that much? I don't know. I mean, and in the long run, ticket sales and the TV money, they're required to have X amount of games on to get paid what they get paid. So I don't see that happening. They did studies. Okay, a player that plays 82 games, is he more susceptible to a knee injury than someone just played 40 games? And they've done all those research, and in the long run, it's not that distinct. So you can't say that, Joel Embiid, pulled his hamstring when he played in 79 games one season. And then when he only played in 45 games, he never got hurt. Well, number one, why is he only playing 45 games? But, you go out there, it doesn't matter, fatigue, yes, it matters, muscle strains, but now masseuses and nutritionists and chiropractors and, all this taking care of cold tubs, cryo, all this stuff helps with that. So, you can and that helps, with fatigue, but in the long run, you can blow out your knee in the third game of the season. You haven't even hardly played any games. So, and you could blow it out in the 3rd minute of the 3rd game. So, it's just, that's just
it's a change. But Paul, I like what you said about, I think we talked about this last year, and I'd never thought about it. If you cut a guy's minutes, 5-10 minutes a game, how that can help preserve that athlete.
Yeah, and you could do it. I used to do it all the time. So, like if my star that I need on the floor to win games, I need them on the floor. I'm not winning these games, whether it's the G League or the NBA. But I can work in where I can get him the rest. So, during the first timeout of the first quarter, it's at 2:55 left. So he's played 13 minutes. He's played 12 minutes, right? Now I sit him out for those 3 minutes. Plus he gets a minute and a half of rest during the timeout. So now you're at 4.5 minutes. Then I don't put him in for another 4 minutes. You can rest him for almost 10 minutes of real time. And really, depends on fouls and everything, it's only like 6 minutes of game time. So that's how you do it. But and you do it, so you have your, you give your main guy a break at the end of the 3rd quarter, and then you don't want to put him back in till he can play the rest of the 4th quarter. So whether that's after 2, 3, 4 minutes, whatever it is, so he could be rested for the last 10 minutes of the game or 11 minutes of the game. That's how you manage minutes with star players.
Yeah, that's good stuff. You're watching We Got Next here on Sports Fluent. Be sure to subscribe to our show so you can get us every time we are on the air. And Mo, and especially, I mean, I always brag on my friend all the time, but talking to this guy is so much fun because he has so much knowledge and so much experience around the game at every level. But Mo, have you ever, you've seen it all, but have you seen teams go at it in a preseason game the way the Knicks and Timberwolves were the other night?
Well, most preseason games are really laid back. The stars only play half the game, if that. The coaches kind of deciding on their last cut or two, keeping your stars in shape, but not getting them taxed and play them too much. And even the referees are more laid back and calls aren't as important. But that changes when there's a big major trade involved. When you have players of that caliber that were traded for each other, then there's animosity. I've been traded before, and listen to the players. It's just another game. You know, I'm going back into Milwaukee and play. I'm going to be in the visitors room and wearing a different. I'm wearing a Golden State jersey, or it's no big. Yes, it is. It is. Yes, it is. I'm I'm upset that they didn't keep me. I'm mad at the coach that thought I wasn't good enough. They didn't want me anymore, and it becomes more personal. And that's what happened with DiVincenzo and the coaching staff with the Knicks. And he was first took a shot at Tibbs after he did an N1 finish. It said, "Oh, okay, Tibbs, so I can't finish, right?" Because obviously he heard that from someone. He heard that from his agent. He heard that from maybe one of his teammates. One of his New York teammates after the trade said, Tibbs always said you couldn't finish. I don't, I believe you can. Something like that. So he's got that in his head. And he's like, this is a FU to you, Tibbs, N1. And then for whatever reason, Brunson's dad, who's on the bench, he's been a coach at every level. But let's be frank right now. Brunson's dad would not be on the staff in the Knicks if Jalen Brunson wasn't there. So don't give me this Bronny crap. Bronny's there. He doesn't. Well, Brunson's dad wouldn't be on the Knicks coaching staff if his son wasn't the superstar. So get over that. Right. And obviously there was something going on, maybe in some practices back, a year or so ago, when maybe, Brunson's player attitude came out and he said something. I told you were sorry, something like that irritated him, and then, he made some comments about this is what happens when they let you take over or something like that, or, but, that's one thing. But after the game, here's my opinion. After the game, handshakes and everything, I've seen more bad blood and fights in the minor league on a handshake. I saw a fight at USC. We were playing in Arizona State. We had a fight at handshake line. I don't know if I want those or not, But the bottom line is, whatever was said, Brunson Sr. said something to DiVincenzo like that was BS or that was effed up, and then he turned and said, whatever he said, So then it got a little physical. But then what I saw on ESPN was uncalled for and maybe should be fined. Because Brunson Sr. looked at DiVincenzo and said, don't worry, I'll let you live. Something like that. You don't say stuff like that. Especially in today's world. Yeah. So we'll see.
In today's world. Back in the day, it'd have been whatever. Yeah, not today. Well,
back in the day, we're going out. Let's go in the back. Let's go. There ain't nobody here anyway. Let's go to the parking lot. Let's go, Ricky. Well, come on, man. You want to stay? Let's go.
Well, DiVincenzo was the trade took him away from his teammates from Villanova, Brunson, Josh Hart, and Bridges. Maybe that's what has him so upset.
Because they were.
But he's on another good team. I mean, hey.
Yeah, but Jalen Brunson and DiVincenzo were best men in each other's weddings. That's how close they were. They weren't just friends. Yeah. They were best friends. So, there's some, that took you away from that. But he's on a really good team. But you know what? He had the role going. I mean, at the end of last year, he scored 42 points in the game. He was on a roll and feeling comfortable. So, I always thought, and I told players, if you get traded, because that was told to me when I was traded from Houston to Detroit, my second year in the league, and I was really upset. And some of my older teammates that knew what they were talking about said, "Listen, Mo, this is a business, man. Happens all the time. Now you could take it a couple ways. Some guys on teams don't make friends with anybody because they can be traded. I'm not making friends with anybody. It's a business. I took it the other way. I made friends with everybody, and whatever happened happened. But the bottom line is, they said you cannot think of this team of not wanting you and trading you. You have to think of the other side, that team wants you and gave up something to get you. So you got to take the positive out of that. Which
Well,
is hard.
that is really it. And,
It's hard to do it.
Saying City Sports, the Knicks should have never traded DiVincenzo. Never.
So
You liked him that much?
Yeah.
Well, what's your thoughts on that trade? Towns coming over, Robinson's out for the year. They lost
Yep.
Hartenstein, who
Yep.
I thought was huge for them. That's the guy you shouldn't have let go, Sand City. And
Yep.
I want to get your thoughts on that too. But go ahead, Mo.
Well, if they wouldn't have let Hartenstein go out of free agency for nothing, then they would have a center that can be a starting center in the NBA. But then they learned that Robinson's out for the season. So what do? And that kind of forced their hand. And everybody, well, you should, they talk about Minnesota. Well, you should have never traded Towns. You should have traded Gobert. No one's taking Gobert in his contract. Nobody. So you only have one other option when you're Minnesota. You got to give up something really good to get something really good. Now, we don't know, Sin City. We don't know what Randall's situation is with his shoulder. He's supposed to play next week or something. But that's the key to that trade for Minnesota and maybe the Knicks. Maybe his shoulder's jacked up and he might not ever play again. Who knows? You got to pass the physical, but that's different. Passing the physical and playing in NBA games are two different things. But, I think, the Knicks got, a 6'10", that could shoot threes and score. He could drive. If you post him up, he could score. I think he's averaging like 10 boards a game. So that's where I think he really needs to help him, and he is. And he's got a new lease on life. I think the Knicks will be okay, but like Ricky said, letting Hartenstein go and then Robinson being out for the season, it forces your hand. What other starting center could you get out there? For not giving up. When you trade in the NBA, you have to give up good to get good. So
and San City's talking about the draft capital, Mo. You're not a big fan of trading for draft picks, I know.
The draft capital was done to make the trade work financially. I mean, they got a second round, right? They didn't get a first round. They got a second round pick. What a second round pick? You can buy a second round pick for $100,000 in the second round if you want. Call them up. Hey, give you $100,000 for your second round pick. Okay, good. It's done all the time. But second round was to make that financially work for salary cap reasons. But, if it was a first round, now you're talking about something else.
Yeah. Let's go back. Team chemistry separates the Knicks from other contenders. Tibbs can develop another backup center.
Well,
I hope you're right there, but Hartenstein, Paul, you called it last year. You said this kid is making himself money with every game he had.
Now, I agree with you that Tibbs can develop a backup center, but he doesn't have a starting center. No Robinson, no Hartenstein. Who's your starting center? Nobody. So that's the problem with that. I mean, yes, team chemistry is huge, very important. And they had it going last year, and, half those guys played for Villanova and, they're best friends. But you can develop a backup center. You can't develop a starting center. That's what Hartenstein was starting to come into. If they would have kept him, then you're okay. But they lost him and they lost Robinson. No starting center. If you don't have a starting center, backup center doesn't matter.
Yeah. Hey, Mo, just a quick aside, a little NFL talk. The Eagles coach Nick Sirianni got into it with the fan after a game they won.
at home.
Any advice? Any advice for him?
Yeah, don't engage the fans. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do, man. I mean, when we had hecklers on the road in the NBA, as soon as you engage the barber there in Detroit, I forgot his first name, or he was a great heckler, but as soon as you engage him, it's over. It's on. So just ignore them. It's like if you get in a bully situation, right? You just ignore them, and usually they go away. Now, sometimes a bully won't go away, and you got to pop him one sometimes to wake his ass up. But as a head coach, and you can't go pop the fan in the stand. So your only option is to just ignore it. You could be mad and all that, but you can't engage fans. Especially in today's world. I mean, Ricky, if you go back in the footage of the NBA in the 80s, especially in the 70s, but even in the 80s, players were going into the stands, not just the Mouths and the Palace, not just that. A lot of games they would go into the stands. McHale came in the stands in Milwaukee, then confronted a lawyer behind. I mean, but you can't do that anymore. I mean, you're gonna get fined at the least, maybe fired at the worst, but you just can't do that. I mean, there's nothing they can say to you that should make you that angry that you do some reaction. Now, I flipped off the fans in Detroit one time. I admit that, but that was my
Hey,
it was my home fans. I was playing for the Pistons.
hey, were you at the Silverdome?
Yes. Yeah, I had a bad game, playing terrible, so they subbed me out. And as they're coming out, they booed me. And I had a fan section. I mean, they had T-shirts with my name on it and my picture on it, and they booed me. So I turned around and flipped them off. Actually, a double flip off, and it felt good, but then not so good.
I'm sure Trader Jack came to you and said, "Mo, we don't do this. This is Detroit, but we still don't do this."
No, nothing was said.
Hey, Paul, Alonzo Ball has not played in more than 2 seasons. Last time he played was January of 22. He could be taking the floor tomorrow night. More than 1,000 days have passed since he's played a game. I mean, he's had 3 knee surgeries. Number one, kudos to him to keep trying to get back to this. But what would your expectations be?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't know his rehab. What I read is he had double cartilage replacement, which I've never heard of before. And I know, like, I'll tell you, like, I've had hip replacement, no problem. I've had knee replacement, not so good, because knees are really tricky. And that's what scares me about that. I'm sure they will. I hope they take it slow, not play him a lot of minutes right off the bat. And here's the key for him too. If he's physically able to play and okayed by the doctors, he's put a lot of work in, a lot of work. That takes a lot of work to get back to basketball playing level. So, but the thing is, what's catchy is if he comes back and he starts playing good and doing his thing and feeling good, the human nature is to take off your rehab and just kind of relax a little bit. Okay, I'm what I used to be. But especially with knees, you can't do that. You have to continue, even though you feel good, even though your knee feels strong, you still have to rehab and keep that up so nothing crazy can happen. So, it's going to be interesting because it's not an easy thing to come back after 2 years, right? Or longer? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 years, January of 22.
Yeah.
Nearly 3 years, really.
Yeah. I mean, that's, when you, after the season, players usually take off, 3 or 4 weeks at the most. And then when you try to come back and get in shape, it's hard as hell. It used to be, it takes you 3 weeks to get in shape and 3 days to get out of shape. So he's been off for almost 3 years. So, and the thing is,
3 days to get out of shape.
It does, but he's a skilled player. I mean, he relies on his skill. and his ability to get penetration. And, with bigs, if they come back, you worry about the weight they're carrying and, the pounding.
Right.
But really, let's face it, most bigs just, 3/4 speed down the floor. And, like, I bet if the Joker, had knee surgery, he could be back in about 4 months because, he's a great player, but he's not sprinting down the floor. He's not cutting all the time. He's not penetrating and doing all that. So, but that's with him, it's going to be that knee and the movement, the lateral movement is going to be the big test, I think.
Yeah, and like Mitchell Robinson, who's a good player for them, but man, he cannot get back on the floor in New York, which is really why they had to trade for Karl Anthony Towns, because he has a stress fracture that it just keeps setting him back. He's out for the year again. And
let's think about.
He's 7 foot 250.
Yeah, that's not very big, really. And I bet he's not 250. I bet he has been 250 since college. I bet he's 260, 70 probably. But either way, it's a lot of body to carry around. And but look at Yao Ming. Yao Ming hurt his foot, tried to come back, came back for a little while, but then had to retire because, believe me, I've had 6-foot surgeries. I have screws and plates in my feet. I know what that's like. And you think like, my shoulder, my knees, my elbow. Really, your feet take all the beating, and those bones in the feet are so small that they can heal and break. It's just, I'm sorry, but when something like that happens to someone of that size, it's not a good thing. It's too bad.
Well, actually, I'm looking at this now. He had the stress fracture in his left ankle last year, had surgery and missed 3 months. He returned, hurt the same ankle again, more surgery, but they said he could be back by January.
Yeah, and then he could hurt it again.
But you can't count on that. Yeah, you can't count on that.
They already did
that ankle.
They already did. They had surgery. He came back. They hurt it again. That's things don't change. I hope for him that he can come back and be successful, and I hope it's in January. But if you're talking about the trade for Townsend in the center, the coaching staff and the GM and the player personnel and the owners aren't sitting there going, well, we'll just milk it out till January when he comes back. They're counting him as gone, and if he comes back, it's a bonus for him.
Right. Hey, speaking of, you mentioned Bronny James earlier in the show. He has really struggled here in the preseason. He is destined to be a G League player, and there's nothing wrong with that, going to the G League, right?
Yeah, and the problem is he's going to struggle in the G League too. You know that, right? He's a below average player at that level, and he's going to face guys in the G League that are better than him and probably way better than him. So it's going to be quite a battle. I pretty much promised that Bronny will be on the roster for day one and probably get in that game, and then they'll probably send him to the G League. But the G League's no joke. You've seen the talent. You came here and watched the Ignite play. And let's face it, man. He averaged 4 points a game or 5 at USC. You think he's going to average more in the preseason? I think he's averaging 1 or 0 or something. So,
I just he scored yet.
Yeah, he should celebrate that he's on the floor at all. He came close to dying a year ago, so he should really celebrate that. Yeah. And accept going to the G League if they'll send him, which they probably will, and just work on getting better. Don't worry about the NBA. Forget it. Just work on getting better every day, working on your game, and, good things could happen. But,
Yeah. You're watching We Got Next. I'm Ricky Hampton with Paul Mokeski. Send us your questions and comments here. We're talking some NBA hoops. Preseason is here. Regular season will be tipping off really soon. out in Sacramento, Paul, DeAndre Fox is turned down. Man, he said, "Nah, that's okay." The Kings offered him 3 years, 163 million. That's more than 50 million a year. He said, nah, don't worry about it. I'm good. How you turn down more than 50 million a year?
Well,
you're gonna tell me why in a second.
Yeah, because in the end, if he has the same kind of year that he's had for the last 2 years, he's going to sign for 300 million plus. That's why, and he's going to have an option. I don't know what his contract status is, but if he runs out his last contract, he's probably going to be a free agent, be able to go to any team he wants to.
Yep.
So obviously, Sacramento hasn't done well in the playoffs, so players like to win. He's made what 150 million, whatever, 80, whatever, who cares? So he's got money in the bank, hopefully. But in the long run, he's betting on himself. And if he could play like he usually plays, he's going to sign 250, 300 million, so that's 100 million. It's not like 10 million more. It's like $100 million more than they're offering. So, is it risky? Sure, because he could get hurt and then the question marks come in. But, he's betting on himself. And, we'll see what happens. And also gives him options. If he's a free agent after this at the end of the year, then he can look around. Do I want to be a Maverick? Do I want to be a Laker? Do I want to be a Nugget? Do I want to go out east and play for the Knicks? Or you can have that option. A lot of it's not going to be there because of his salary. A lot of those teams can't fit him in with their salary cap. So if I was his agent, I'd start looking at teams that are getting ready to lose big time contracts. Guys that are making 20, 30 million this year and coming off the books next year.
Mo, is the salary cap equitable in the NBA? Because how does a team like my Pistons compete? We're a cold weather city, man, and we're not winning. When they were winning, they could get guys here, but how did you get better?
Well, you need to spend your money wisely, right? So if I'm looking up, like you can look up the highest salary in the NBA right now is Phoenix, $232 million a year. So people need to realize that the salary cap, I think, is 160 million. So they're over the salary cap. So they're actually probably paying 350 million because of the penalty tax they have to pay, which goes back to the teams that aren't over the cap, like the Pistons, right? Let's see where the Pistons are. No. They are last. The Pistons' salary is 136 million a year. They're last in the NBA in spending money. They're just over. I think the minimum you can spend is 135 million. So they have room, but you need an owner that's willing to spend money to get players, because players are going to go where the money is. But here's the thing for some team like Detroit, right? You can't just bring one player in. You got to bring like a couple guys, like Miami did, right? They brought Bosh and LeBron James, to join Wade. You got to do something like that, but you have to have an owner that's willing to spend the money. And I would look up their owner. I think they just sold a little while ago, but
Tom Gores.
I bet
is the owner.
I bet
he just paid well. He's probably a little tight. He just had to give Monty Williams $100 million to go away.
He's to not coach, right? What's his name? Tom what?
Gores, Gores, yeah.
So okay. You know what his net worth is?
What?
$9.4 billion.
Oh, poor guy.
So I would say that puts him in the top 15 of the NBA. I mean, I think Ballmer in LA, he's worth like probably 20 billion or more than that. And when you get to billion, it's just ridiculous. But Mark Cuban owned the Mavericks and he's worth 3.5. He's worth $4 billion. So this guy's worth twice as much as Mark Cuban.
Come
So,
on, man.
so you have to be willing to spend money, and then you got to spend it wisely. Just go back
That's the
into
problem.
go back to the history of the New York Knicks. They threw away money when Rick Pitino was there, and he brought in all those Kentucky players. Threw away money. They hired Isaiah Thomas to coach the team at $10 million a year. They fired him after 2 years. You know, they just spending money crazy. So you got to be willing to spend money and then do it wisely and bring in the right players. I don't know who's coaching that team now, but that would be
JB Jr., Bickerstaff Jr.
Bakerstaff. So he's been around. But it's tricky. I mean, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to pay Ricky $50 million and he's going to turn our program around. It doesn't work that way. You got to give your money to the right.
Wait a minute, hold on, Mo. I'll be more than willing to try.
Well, yeah, I know, me too.
50 million.
But you know what? Next year we'll be sitting there going, "What the hell happened? Are we still losing?" Yeah, but I mean it's not so simple to be able to do that, because the salary cap is tricky. There's the first apron, there's the second apron. You pay 25% tax, you pay 50%, you pay 2-to-1 taxes when you're over whatever. So when you see a team that's spending $230 million, like some of these teams are, that's almost $500 million to the owner in real life.
Yeah.
So it's tricky.
Hey, Paul, man, this hour is flying by. Anybody you interested, kind of looking forward to watching play this year? What do you want to see from Big Wemby in his second season?
Well, he's got Chris Paul now, so there's some leadership there, and really good passer. So hopefully he can bring him some leadership. But you know what? Wemby is one of the best players in the league already, and he's so young, and he's a unicorn. He does crazy stuff at 7'5", whatever he is. But the problem is you can't become a winning team with one or two players. So he can average 30 points and 15 rebounds a game, and the Spurs not make the playoffs. Because you got to look at your roster, and what they need to have is enough good players around them to at least make them competitive this year. Get them into play-in. Maybe get a first round. Then you rejuvenate his juices because he's really competitive. He says, "I'm here to win." Well, guess what? After 3 years, you don't win. Guess what he's going to do? Just what the other guys do. Bye-bye. I'm a free agent now. Goodbye. See you later.
Yeah.
So, everybody thinks it's chill, but they need to turn things around. It's with those other players, all those young guys that need to come through. So, Wemby is doing what.
See, that's what Fox is doing in Sacramento right now.
Sure.
He wants to see what the Kings are doing.
Yeah. That's what Giannis forced the Lillard trade a few years ago when he said, I'm looking to the team to make some moves so we can be competitive again. It didn't work, but he forced that because he could leave too. He could have left in 2 years. So, it's a players-driven league. But Wemby, I mean, what else do you want to do?
Mo, I think your Bucks are the third best team in the conference this year, behind Boston and Philly.
Problem is Middleton's hurt again.
Yeah, but they're still the third best team. I don't know who gets.
I mean, we haven't even played a game.
You said you like Cleveland. You said you like Cleveland, right?
I like the Knicks. I like Cleveland. Philly, Boston. That's 4 teams right there. That if Middleton's not healthy and they don't do the right thing, they won't be competing with Boston and Philly. They'll be competing with the Knicks and Memphis and Cleveland and Indiana. That's who they're competing with. So, I mean, the Bucks roster isn't as deep as I'd like. It's not bad, but with Middleton out, and if he can't come back, the Middleton of old, then they're going to be in the same boat. I mean, do you think, the Knicks have Brunson, Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Hart, and now Towns. I mean, they're just as good as a lot of these teams. Cavs are good. Memphis could be good, depending on what John Morant does. He looks phenomenal again. So I wouldn't say there's a clear third team in the East. I'd say there's Boston and Philly and all the rest, or the other ones I just mentioned.
Yeah. Well, sometimes these guys just get hurt, man, and just can't seem to turn that around. Robinson, Middleton's been dealing with this for a while. We just talked about Ball, Ben Simmons.
Injuries are the biggest.
It's just what it is.
The best ability is availability. I mean, Giannis has been hurt the last two playoffs. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. Milwaukee lacks chemistry and depth. Miami, Indy, and Cleveland better suited for the number 4 seed.
Well, I would say Milwaukee made the trade that was forced by Giannis, by the way, to get Lillard, but they lost Holiday, who, as we know, is the only player I can remember ever. Think about this, Ricky. He won the NBA championship with the Bucks and then went and won a gold medal that same summer.
Yeah.
He won an NBA championship with the Celtics and then went and won a gold medal with the Olympics in that summer. Do you know a player that's done that before? I mean,
No.
it's amazing, But 2 different teams, 2 different times, 2 different teams. That's amazing, So I think that hurt them.
And Paul, and there's nothing glamorous about his game whatsoever, man. He just plays basketball, man.
Do you think anything was glamorous with Sidney Moncrief's game?
No. Yeah,
he's a winner. He's in the Hall of Fame, but he's the same way.
Yeah, that's a great.
He led the team. His second year in the league, he led the Milwaukee Bucks, which were a 50-win team, in points, rebounds, and assists.
Yeah.
As a skinny 6'4", skinny as hell, that just gets it done. Nothing flashy. You turn around, he's got 30 points and he's got 9 boards and he's got 7 assists and probably a couple steals.
And friend of the show, all you viewers here, you can go back and check our shows out. We're on Sports Fluent. You can go to our Facebook page, We Got Next, and go through all our shows. We've had some great guests on.
We had Alton Lister on a couple weeks ago. He's a good one.
Oh, Alton was, and Sydney was just great. Mo, we got to get ready to get out of here, man. Any final thoughts?
Go Packers! We're back in it. Let's look at the NFL, right? You're looking at what is it? NFC North. You got Minnesota at 5-0, Detroit's 4-1. Even though they lost their player just yesterday, Chicago's 4-2, and the Packers are 4-2. That's the toughest conference in the NFL right now, or division.
The best conference in the NFL is the NFC North. Been a while since we've been able to say that, Paul.
Yeah,
but the NFL is kicking in. No, go ahead.
Chicago's real now, and Detroit's real. It used to be Minnesota, Green Bay, right? But now Chicago's real and Minnesota's real.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little more NFL. Get your thoughts as the season is. Everybody's really beginning to separate themselves. We'll get into that a little more next week. But Mo, we got to get out of here. And I want to thank everybody, man. We got a big crowd in here tonight. Of just people just checking us out and listening in. We really appreciate you. You can subscribe to our show. Go to Sports Fluent and check us out there.
You can send us questions and comments for next week. We're open to talk about anything.
Yep. Hey, and we're normally on at 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday. This is a special time. So look for us then. Thank you for tuning in. For my great friend Paul Mokeski, I'm Ricky Hampton. We're out of here. See you next Monday. Peace, everyone.